We are live on YouTube, Twitter, Rumble. I'm about to get on my Rockfin and make sure Rockfin is live. When that little red button is clickable. 1 second there. I have a special guest today. I'm very, very excited because right now we're coming up on the Libertarian National Convention. And all of the talk, we're a couple weeks away, and all of the talk around that convention is about RFK Jr. and Donald Trump, neither of who are libertarians. So what about the actual libertarian candidates for president? And we're going to get a chance today to find out what one of those candidates, what's going on with them, how their campaign is going, because we have a guest today who is a family man, a blue-collar, hard-working man who has enough children to field a baseball team and who is kind of like a handsome Pluto from Popeye, I've been told, and who is a libertarian candidate for president. I've met him at the Georgia debate. You see him on screen right now. Joshua Smith. Josh, thank you for joining me today. I know it's awkward. I'm doing all that intro as though you weren't on screen. But yeah,
I was already here, man.
I know. Yeah. How's it going?
You feel like you have the power? I was born into this. You know what I mean? No, I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me on. You know, I'm a big fan of yours, dude, and I appreciate you. And I'm glad to be here. I was just waiting for that call from Brad Binkley to get me on the show. You know what I mean? And here I get to hang out with you, and I'm very excited, man. Thank you.
Well, I'm happy to have you, man. It's going to be a good time. So let's dive into this, man. Libertarians are getting a lot of news right now. And, you know, one thing I did want to ask you, because I know that you're about, you know, ending the Fed and stuff like that, and, you know, ending federal taxes, all of those things we hear from libertarians. How will we continue to support democracy by giving Ukraine and Israel our money if we do stuff like that?
Yeah, well, here's the thing, man. I think that in a nation where 12% of the population is having problems putting food on the table, the middle class is not doing much better. I mean, we're disappearing at an expansive rate. Sooner or later, you're going to be poor. You're going to be the wealthy elite, and that's it. That's all that's going to be in the United States these days. And it's all by design. It's all by design, right? I mean, you run the propaganda report. You know about all these conspiracies that aren't actually conspiracies. It's stuff that the government knows they're doing. I mean, they know that this inflation rate is killing the home buyers. They know that the inflation rate is killing big families and destroying your grocery bill and your gas bill and your mortgage, and they know they're doing all this stuff. So, you know, I don't care. Like, I want to be very clear about that. Like I'm all for like Ukraine getting their independence or whatever it is they think they're doing other than laundering U.S. tax dollars. Right. But I'm all for it. Like, do whatever that you need to do. But the United States needs to be about the United States first. And when I campaign, I tell people, and I mean it, I am the only America First candidate running today in the United States of America. How sad is it that the Libertarian is the only America First candidate, the only one that cares about Americans first? And that's how we have to be. If I'm going to run to govern a nation, I need to think about that nation first. And what we've been doing with foreign welfare parasitism, as I call it, this foreign intervention and constant money across the globe is not helping Americans. It's not benefiting Americans. There are no, trade deals that benefit American citizens. These are all just terrible money laundering schemes, essentially, and pet projects for bloodthirsty warhawks up in the Capitol. And so it needs to stop. And we need somebody strong enough to go in there and say, hey, you guys are done. That's it. It's over. Yeah.
And so the grocery prices and all of that, which is something that most people feel, unless you're a college student, which they always target the young, stupid people who don't feel the effects of some of these things. But most people can feel these things going on right now. I can't go to the grocery store and get a carton of eggs and a thing of milk and orange juice for under $100. But
$30.
It's crazy. And still, though, you have people who are just all about sending this money overseas, which to me reflects the effectiveness of the propaganda messaging machine, both on the right and the left when it comes to Ukraine and Israel, which for me, I look at those things and I don't understand how you can be a logical person and support one of those, but not the other, without realizing the contradiction in your position. What are your thoughts on the ability to kind of fracture people's minds in the media and for people themselves to just compartmentalize, I want to send money to Israel, but I oppose it to Ukraine and vice versa?
Yeah, well, and I think this is the game that the United States government's been playing with the populace for decades and I mean 100 years, right? It's the same thing with Taiwan as well. I mean, at the end of the day, they've got the entire country charged up thinking that China's this like huge oppressive apparatus that's going to kill all the Americans if we don't protect Taiwan. And the truth of the matter is that Taiwan's just a tripwire for war with China, and it's the same with Ukraine. The American government has wanted a war with Russia for a long time. They wanted a war with Iran. They wanted to push the Middle East so that they can get their war with Iran. And we need to tell people that. I think that's, we get into these arguments about, is it moral to send money to Israel? Is it moral to send food stores to Palestinians while we're sending money to Israel? What we need to say is it benefiting Americans to send money to these countries that don't help us out? And so, we have to go out and tell people, we're supporting the terrorists. We've been supporting terrorism around the world for many, 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 many decades. I mean, we trained Osama bin Laden and ISIS and now all these. Hamas was propped up by the Likud party in Israel 100% to get support on the national stage to invade Palestine. I mean, that's the Israel created Hamas. I mean, they really funded and created Hamas. So like at the end of the day, we need to go out and tell people these things, but we need to do it in like an exciting way. We don't want to go out and lecture people. We want to go out and be like, yo, look,
you don't black pill them either.
Yeah, no, you don't want to black pill them. And I get in the conversation about black pills a lot because, there's a lot of libertarians that are just black. I mean, for lack of a better word, fucking black pilled. And the truth is, it's like, I have children. Dave Smith has hit this right on the head. I have children. I don't have the luxury of being black pilled. I have to stay white pilled because black pill to me means giving up on my children. And I refuse to do that. When people ask me, why are you running for president? It always comes back to my children. I also have a dream that my kids can grow up in a country where they don't have to continue to pay a penance to the government for a house that they didn't help them buy or maintain. And that's just the basics, but we need to highlight these areas in an exciting way that helps people get white pilled and understand that there is a movement in the United States of people who are tired of these interventions, who are absolutely 100% tired of the foreign welfare that goes around the world that doesn't benefit American citizens, that are tired of the inflation rates, that are tired of a government that sets monetary policy that hurts the middle class and working workers. I mean, that's, that might sound communist to some people, but it's the truth. Most of us are blue collar working class people. Most of us.
Absolutely. And so I think you're right. I think most people, when it was broken down to them, or if you're speaking to them in private conversations, not through social media where everybody is always kind of siding with their team almost immediately, you do find that people agree about problems and challenges, but because of the teams they identify with, they're kind of easily separated and turned against each other because of the effectiveness of the way they're able to propagandize. And how do you? So you're very good at, because I asked a question at the Georgia debate. I am someone who does not vote in the presidential election because I see it as like a kick in the face or a punch in the balls. And then people say, well, you don't have a say in the conversation if you don't vote. And I say, well, go F yourself. That's the oldest propaganda technique in the book, is to say that. So that's not going to compel me. I will locally, I will vote. But like, since Ron Paul, I haven't been inspired to actually get up and go vote because I believed in. You're good at communicating to people like that, I feel. So what kind of messaging and just, interactions have you had that you feel would be effective for kind of the Libertarian Party as a whole to use?
Sure. Well, I think there's obviously tons of specific policy that I bring up that a lot of other presidential candidates just don't talk about, like how important the fact that have 100% destroyed the family in America, taking us from 1 in 60 children in a fatherless home to 1 in 4 children in a fatherless home just since the 70s. This is the remnant, right? This is the people that you're talking about. I consider them the remnant. These are the 51% of the population that didn't vote for a presidential candidate in 2016 because they're looking at it and go, this is a dog and pony show. I don't need to take part in this. But, my message to those people and how I've been effective at getting people involved. At one point, I was the largest recruiter in the entire Libertarian National Party, the entire party for 2 years straight. And the reason why I was good at that is because I'm a blue collar working class guy, family man, raising children who feels the effects the same way they do. So I know how to message it in a way that they understand. But also, this is a matter of self-defense at this point. Okay. I'm not going to use the term like, oh, this is the most important election of our lifetime.
Yeah,
Really,
the soul of our democracy.
Yeah, this is the soul of our democracy is up for debate, and I don't believe that. Like I 100% believe that like the presidential election is a bought and sold and paid for shindig, really.
Yeah.
But we have an opportunity to put a guy like me who just is a normal guy who understands economic policy and theory and also understands, the culture war, and put them on 50 state media tour, right?
And you're not autistic.
No, I'm not. I like to think I am a little bit. Otherwise, I wouldn't be a full-blown libertarian. But the truth is that like we need somebody who can go out and message to the remnant. This is the remnant. These are the people that feel absolutely out of control entirely. And, if nothing else, we poll at 15% in any of the big polls, like a Quinnipiac poll. We get on the debate stage. I go up there and tell both of the presidential candidates to eat my ass, and we get to walk away the victor. I mean, that's how I feel, right? But the truth is like I get to go up there and tell them how Americans feel. I get to be the voice of the American public that is hurting right now, that is jaded, that is barely making ends meet because of an oppressive government economically. And I get to go up there and tell them like what their policy has done to Americans. And I think that that's a selling point to a lot of people. Like, oh wow, we got a guy that's just like us, that's raising kids and been through the family law system and done all these things. And he's going to go out there and tell these guys like Title 40, the Social Security Act, has ruined the family in the United States. The Federal Reserve is a giant counterfeiting machine that's stealing our wealth through a tax called inflation. I get to go say those things to those people and be the voice for a generation, really.
Right. And a lot of them, I brought up this poll at that debate, they don't even know what these things do. So being able to communicate that in a way they understand, so they understand how it is affecting them negatively. So why they say, oh my gosh, we do need to get rid of that, I think is one of the most important things. You mentioned the debate and getting up there and calling out the other candidates. So you've been putting some tweets out about 5 hours to do this to raise a certain amount of money, and I saw on the Libertarian National Convention page that the top 5 highest donors on their presidential polling page will be able to participate in the debate during the convention. I believe it's on the 25th is when the debate is. Where are you in that? From what I saw on the page, you're second or third right now.
We were first for the last several weeks, and I think Chase Oliver overtook me by like $150 just yesterday.
Yeah, you were that's right. You were second. Chase was first.
Yeah. So Chase just passed us up yesterday, and so we actually, as a collective group of presidential candidates, had decided that we weren't going to promote that poll anymore.
Okay.
And a lot of the campaign teams talked to each other and said, look, this is kind of bullshit, really, to be honest with you. We've always done the debate the same way. The delegates show up, they give tokens to their candidate, and their candidate, whoever gets the 5 top candidates to get tokens at the national convention, gets to get on the debate stage. And that lets the delegates who are going to select the candidate pick the nominees to go up there and do the debate. And so this is kind of bullshit what they're doing. They haven't raised a lot of money this term, and I'm not gonna slide anybody there. I just think that they didn't raise as much money as they could have, and they're kind of using a bunch of this stuff to try and raise more money. And I get it. I'm not mad about it. But now I see that some more people are starting to promote it again. So maybe I take the gloves off and go back to promoting it and win it. It doesn't matter. We're going to get in the debate. I know that.
Okay.
And I'm going to go up there, but my goal is to get that 15% in a Quinnipiac poll or one of the big polls leading up to the national election and get on the debate stage, because all we need to do is poll at 15%. And I've made a promise to the American public: if they help us poll at 15%, I will bring a laser etched Hunter crack pipe on stage to give to Joe Biden in front of the national audience. So
I mean, I'm willing to invest a large portion of my savings if that's going to happen.
I mean it, dude. I really do. I'm a troll. Everybody knows I'm a troll, and I'm not afraid of confrontation. But like, that's what these people need, man. They need somebody who's going to go out there and confront the people that have been ruining their lives, and I'm more than willing to do that. And I could do it in a way that makes people laugh, and I think that's important too. So,
and a lot of people, it's hard to think that people don't know about the Hunter Biden situation or Ashley Biden's diary, but people who don't either watch the news a lot or they're caught in their own bubble or kind of apathetic. You tell them about it. Like I did this thing a couple times on my show where I had friends of mine who they weren't like far left progressives. They were more reasonable, who I would bring them on. I would say, have you heard of the Hunter Biden laptop? And they had never heard of it. This is like 6 months ago. And so I would just tell them, type in, and I'd tell them the phrase to type in. And then we would just watch their expression.
Oh yeah.
The Jeffrey Toobin story, stuff like that. And it's not that people are unreasonable. It's just a lot of time they're just convinced that the world is opposite of what it is based on the media.
Have you seen the new Cat Williams stand up yet?
I haven't. Is it good?
It's pretty funny. He's like, man, these people at the White House, why do we even got the FBI? They don't know whose crack that was. They don't know whose crack that was.
Right.
It was in Hunter's room. It said Hunter's blow on it.
Yeah. Right. No, totally.
Yeah.
What debate stage? Some quack. We were talking about. I guess. I think the question here he might be saying is that neither Trump or Biden is going to want to debate,
right. Which is also possible. I think that at some point either ego or the national public will get to them without a debate. I think it'd be the first year we don't have a debate. I mean, it'd be absolutely insane, and maybe they don't need it. But if I'm polling at 15% and they hold a debate and those two decide not to go, I'll take the whole time. I'll go
do the empty chair debate. Yeah.
I'll do the whole thing by myself, and I don't care. So like, we just need the nomination, and we're going to do this 50 state media tour. We've already talked to some really big names. Of course, I was on Ron Paul yesterday. I don't know if you can see that. That was. And now I'm on Brett Binkley's show, and I'm doing big media. But we're talking to Patrick Bet-David and Sean Ryan and a lot of these guys trying to get on Rogan, and so we're doing all the things that we wanted to see out of a presidential candidate. So
that's like interesting to me, is that like circumventing the mainstream, who anytime if you want to unite the right and left in the mainstream, then put a libertarian in front of them who's a threat, and they will set aside their differences to smear them. But you're subverting that.
Yes.
Yeah,
you have to. And I say this all the time. People are like, "What are you going to do to get your message out?" I'm like, "I'm going to use alternative media because it's way bigger than the mainstream media now. I mean, it's not even close." Joe Rogan has like 7 times the amount of viewers daily that Fox has. Like the entire network of Fox. So this is where we belong, and it's where our people are. And so we have to go alternative media. The mainstream media doesn't matter anymore, especially when Tucker took off. I mean, look at Tucker doing 10, 15, 20 million views. I mean,
it's wild.
There's a reason why he's doing well, and it's because the mainstream media is dead. Tucker wasn't anything on Fox, and then he left Fox, and he's the biggest media talking head out there now.
Yeah, definitely. So speaking of the debate, we had RFK Jr. post that he is challenging Trump to do a debate at the Libertarian Convention. I think RFK speaking on Friday maybe, and Trump on Saturday. And I don't think Trump has responded yet. Here's what I wonder. Because we don't know that a libertarian candidate is actually going to get to challenge one of these two. That's the hope. But to me, this is an opportunity, with Trump especially, for someone to try and force Trump into a debate by heckling him. And I'm wondering if there's some candidates that are maybe considering doing that.
Well, I absolutely am, and I don't care what anybody says. I mean, this is our opportunity to go up there and say what we need to say, and it may be the only opportunity we get. I know there's talks of trying to amend the agenda to move the presidential election to the first day, so that we have a nominee when Trump and all them speak. And I'll tell you right now, if I'm that nominee, they're gonna have to arrest me to get me away from the stage, man. So.
That's interesting. I wasn't going to go to the national convention, but once all that happened, I started thinking about that. I was like, man, that's going to be the real show, is the candidates in the audience out there making sure they get their voice heard. And that's like media attention right there. That's something that I think even CNN and MSNBC might cover, because anything that seems negative towards Trump, they'll put on. So I think there's a great opportunity. I'm excited to see what happens.
There's a lot of people that are mad about this. How dare you let RFK Jr. and Donald Trump speak at the Libertarian National Committee? The fact that he wants to is insane, because nobody gave a shit about the national convention in years past. Like, no one cares. I mean, CNN, C-SPAN's the only news outlet that's actually covered it like in any depth. And the other news outlets that had covered it were like Comedy Central making fun of the delegates. So like the fact that we have those kind of eyes on us is going to be great. And look, if it puts more eyes on our nominating process and our candidate, and gives us, people are going to support us through that avenue. It's going to happen. It's way more beneficial to the libertarians than it is to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not going to get much out of it. Yeah, I mean, we have just under 700,000 registered libertarians in the United States. You think Donald Trump can't touch those people without going to the national convention? Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering why he's even doing it. honestly.
I don't know. I don't know, but I don't think it's of any benefit to him. People think, oh, he's going to come and turn libertarians. No, he's not. No,
Yeah,
he's
I don't think
he can
not
turn
this
those same
crowd.
libertarians. No, he can turn the libertarians at the national convention are not turning for Trump. I promise you that. And the ones outside of the national convention, he can already reach. I mean, he doesn't have to come to the convention. They probably won't even be watching the convention.
And I think that's where some of the misunderstanding of libertarianism by those who aren't libertarians might come into play. Is there's a lot of people who might, when asked, they might say, well, I'm kind of a libertarian, but maybe they probably never actually voted libertarian. They might just say that because they see some appealing aspects of it, the individualism and, entrepreneurial spirit and just, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, which is like at the kind of fundamental, in my opinion, of libertarianism.
Right. Personal responsibility.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But there's always some obstacle that prevents them from going all the way there. That leads to them back in one party, usually, I don't know if usually Republicans, left or right. What are those obstacles that stops people from making that leap?
Well, it's the argument. Well, it always starts with, this is the most important election of our lifetime. We can't waste our vote on the libertarian. We have to vote for Donald Trump to save America. We have to vote for Joe Biden to save America. When in reality, they've both been president of the United States for 4 years and nothing got better.
You're right. Yeah.
Nothing got better. It didn't change. You've already seen it. You already had a teaser for both of them. So why not make this the time that you go, you know what? Fuck these guys. We're going to vote for somebody else. And if it was truly the most important election of your lifetime, you wouldn't be voting for Donald Trump or Joe Biden. You know what I mean? That's for sure. Because damn well those guys ain't going to stop any of this shit. They're all bought and paid for. So I don't know, man. It's just it's always that same argument.
They say it every single time.
Yeah, a vote for Joshua Smith is a vote for Joe Biden. I'm like, well, that's cool, because simultaneously the Biden supporters are telling me it's a vote for Donald Trump. So I don't know how my vote counts 3 times. That's awesome. You know what I mean? Like, if I can make my vote count 3 times, then I'm doing better than the dead people that vote for Democrats.
Yeah, I just get so disappointed when people I know who are smart will make those. Well, I'll vote for so and so. Vote for the. I'm like, you're just getting brainwashed when you say that shit. Most of the public, as you mention often, didn't vote. You mentioned it earlier in the last election. These are, many of them, myself included, are winnable votes.
Right.
But people just kind of run scared, and I think that fear of. I don't know how it continues to work.
And it's so funny. It's so funny because. Like, you're basically telling me that my vote for the person whose policies I support, who supports my values, is actually a vote for somebody who I don't support and whose values I don't support, doesn't support my values. Like, somebody I wouldn't vote for anyways. Yeah. All of a sudden, my vote counts for them now. Like, no, that's just not true. I would rather vote. Look, I teach this to my boys. Okay, the most important thing a man has is integrity. 100%. You don't have anything in your life more important than your integrity. And that means doing the right thing when no one's looking, even if it means you're going to lose. Right. And so we teach this to our children. Okay. This is like the most basic, like, libertarianism in a nutshell as well is just like the most basic tenets of like how you teach your children, the golden rule and do unto others and don't steal and don't hurt people and take the right. Like, those are all bumper sticker slogans, but it's the truth. Like, this is the most basic tenet of libertarianism and voting, really. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going to vote for somebody, vote for who you believe in. It doesn't matter if they're going to win or not. Like, it's not going to change anything if Donald Trump wins. It's just not. It's not going to stop the wars. Both these presidents are going to support Israel. They're both going to push for war with Iran. They're both going to send money to Ukraine. They're both going to do all the same things that you hate right now. And it's not going to change. It's not going to change at all.
And didn't Trump recently, I don't know the full story on it, but didn't he kind of, and quietly kind of give a stamp of approval for the Ukraine aid to Mike Johnson?
Of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that. And, he was also Mr. Warp Speed and Lockdown King. And
I've never understood why he keeps defending the Warp Speed.
Well,
I just can't.
Because he took the vaccine. So he's part of that group bias that's like, no, it's good. I took it. It's all right. And it's like, no, man, I got friends that have died from it. Literally. And so
pretty sure my dad died from the vaccine based on actual Google Trends.
Yes.
Not Google Trends, Google Scholar articles that I took to doctors who, one of them said, yeah.
I know people personally. And in my distant family that have dropped dead immediately within weeks of taking the second booster or whatever. And so you want that guy That guy belongs in Guantanamo Bay, man. That's where he belongs.
Yeah, it's just like just the idea of trying to convince people not to question something that, by their own admission. So the Pfizer documents, for example, you can read through them. It's on their website. I did right when this first came out. I read them on the show. Said that they were excluding the most vulnerable people, pregnant women, the oldest people from the vaccine trials because of the risk it posed to their health and their lives.
Yep.
Yet those are the same people they gave it to when they first rolled it out.
Of course they did. So there was no data. There was no safety or efficacy data.
No.
And I've been very clear on this. One of my biggest talking points is I'm going to punish the lockdowners. I'm going to punish the COVID regime. And I don't care what it takes. If I was to win the presidency, by stroke of luck in 2024, Joshua Smith is now the Libertarian president. Yeah. We're punishing these people, and I mean it to the fullest extent. We're putting together a committee. We're going to take that committee and do a full investigation of Pfizer and the Safer Act and Fauci and all these people that were involved.
What was the Safer Act
OSHA
again?
It was the one that they used to push OSHA, to push businesses to create the vaccine mandates. It was there having your job do the dirty work for them, basically.
Yeah.
And the mask mandates and all these guidelines they put out all came from them and through CDC and of course the World Health Organization as well. So all these people need to be held accountable. We need like a full criminal investigation for crimes against humanity. I mean, a full Nuremberg 2.0. And I mean that 100%. I would work with the court system to make sure that happened. I'd make an investigative committee of people who were not biased during this COVID crisis. And we'd go after those people. And we need somebody to do that. And that means Donald Trump. I don't care if that hurts your feelings. That also means Joe Biden. And I don't care if that hurts your feelings. These people gave us the worst tyranny, 3.5 years of tyranny in the United States in my lifetime. And they deserve whatever comes to them.
It was wild what happened in the country during that period of time. And what you're saying is not just relevant because of COVID. It's relevant to me because they've done this type of thing repeatedly.
Oh, yeah.
Throughout, definitely my lifetime, far beyond that, where they will try and force something on the public, whether they want to test it or they want to test a specific group. And they will use these appeals, these propaganda appeals, and these public figures who identify with the group they're targeting to shut them up from questioning it and just accept your vaccine or whatever it is. Like the Tuskegee Project comes to mind, which was done by John Hopkins University, one of the same universities that was behind the vaccines and is currently still being sued by Guatemalans for billions of dollars because of the Guatemala syphilis experiment, which they did after Tuskegee, and they did it over there because they wouldn't have to worry about any constitutional amendments. So instead of just identifying people who had syphilis and using a black woman to be their handler for 40 years to prevent them from actually realizing they're not getting treatment, that they could just inject it straight into the eyes of children over in Guatemala, which they did. And this is the hospital rolling the vaccine out to you. So this is a pattern of behavior that has gone on for decades that absolutely needs to be investigated. And I'm glad that you have the position to do that. I totally support that.
Look, if you ever get a chance, look, I used to be a staunch pro-vaccinator. Okay. I really did. Until 2020, really. I was against vax mandates per se, but I was a pro-vaxxer. I thought people should get vaxxed. And my now wife is an anti-vaxxer to the max. I mean, 100%. And she actually helped to found an organization here in Iowa called Informed Choice Iowa that works on all the legislation for healthcare freedom. That's their job. And they've done really great work here in Iowa. We have probably some of the best in the country. Her and her friend made me read a book called The Moth and an Iron Lung about the polio vaccine.
Yeah.
By Forrest Moretti. And if you have not read this book, nothing will red pill you more on vaccinations than knowing that probably they were giving kids polio through this vaccination on purpose.
Yeah.
And that prior to that, there was no polio. It was probably the DDT administering to children and other things that affected the lower intestine and seeped into the spinal cord and paralyzed legs. And so, yeah, dude, it's crazy. It red pilled the hell out of me on vaccines. And now I'm pretty much full blown anti-vaxxer. I think it's all bullshit.
So like, the red pill is the key word there. We mentioned black pill earlier. And these subjects get heavy for people.
yeah.
I don't have a problem. I don't get blackpilled really. For me, it's just like it's all a demoralization campaign. So the act of having hope simply is an act of resistance because they want you to be hopeless. So just resist them by seeing the hope, the silver lining. And so with all of this stuff, I am very hopeful because people like you and others have brought this stuff to light. And even though Chris Cuomo's full of shit, and I think that he's got another agenda. Even Chris Cuomo is admitting that he's taking ivermectin right now.
Of course, the horse paste. After all the shit he talked about it.
Right, what a jackass.
After his brother killed people by denying them it.
Right, man.
Yeah.
What he's trying to do is he's trying to intervene in the alternative media's audience is what he's really trying to do.
Of course. Well, yeah, he's out of a job and he's like, well, look what Tucker's doing. Well,
Yeah.
Maybe I could get some of that action. Like people are going to be like, people don't forget, Chris. People don't forget.
Yeah, he needs to earn our forgiveness a little more.
Yeah, there is no amnesty for these people, man. I think they're all slime buckets and they all deserve whatever comes to them. And I mean that 100%. And I think some of these people absolutely have to be punished to the fullest extent of the law, maybe under the jail. I don't know. We'll have to see what the law requires or allows. But man, these people, they ruined business. 30% of the businesses that they shuttered never came back to the market. These are small mom and pop spots. Meanwhile, Walmart and Amazon and all Google and all these big corporations had the biggest wealth transfer from the poor to the rich in history. Pfizer has the biggest criminal fine ever imposed for false marketing.
Yeah.
And they're the ones out here saying it's good. Don't worry, take it. Like, man, the whole
people are still wearing masks.
Yeah, I see people wearing masks in their cars and I can't help but laugh. Like, people are like, you shouldn't make fun of people that wear masks. And I'm like, I can't help it, man. Like we're in 2024 now. We are past 4 years past the beginning of this stuff. And if you haven't figured out that it was all a con job by now, I don't know what to tell you, man. My 1.5-year-old, who's 3 now, had COVID when he was 1.5 while we were at the national convention in 2022, if you can believe that. And he had a fever for 24 hours, man. That was it at 1.5 years old. Okay. Like, you're not going to convince me that this is the most deadly disease in my lifetime when my 1.5-year-old son gets a fever for 24 hours, sleeps for about 10 hours, and then he's fine.
Yeah.
Sorry. You're not.
Right. And the mask, too, along with some of the other problems that they've caused for children anyway. I know for people who are teenagers to in the mid-20s or so, it's actually been proven that if you're still wearing a mask, it causes purple hair.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Purple hair and lefty views. Yeah.
And you're automatically a barista somewhere.
Look, I feel bad for the people that got conned into this. I do. Like, the people that got conned into it, I feel bad for them. Like, they're ruined, man. They're absolutely destroyed. And they had like this sense of superiority, like a sense of identity for the first time in their entire lives. You know what I mean? And they lost it when we all realized it was all bullshit. And like, we're laughing at them and they're like, no, you have to wear a mask. You're not allowed to go to your construction job. No, you can't surf in the ocean. No, we're going to fill your skate parks up with sand. Like that's all over with now. And they have to just deal with the fallout of that and with their own mental health. I feel bad for them. But if you're still pushing these things in 2024, you're my enemy. I want you to know that very clearly. If you're still like making this normal, if you're still normalizing the fact that they locked us down and shut our businesses and masked our children for 3.5 years and fed us like experimental drugs, like, you're my enemy, man. Period.
Yeah,
you are the people that are ruining this country for us today.
So I people who are continuing to push that, definitely people like you said who have they were affected by it and literally terrified into thinking they had to do that. I do have I have sympathy for them. They've been brainwashed, and I just that's just to me. There's a lot of problems in the country, but I just the media and their ability to control some people's reality, and drive them crazy is probably one of the biggest problems and threats to this country. In your opinion, what's the biggest issue facing America?
Oh, man. There's so many. This is such a hard. It's the foreign policy. I mean, at the end of the day, and it's always going to be the number one thing that I talk about. But if we really want to get into it, and it's hard to say that this is the biggest issue because most Americans don't understand that it's the issue. But it's the war on families in the United States, man. At the end of the day, that's really the biggest problem. And I mentioned it in the beginning of the show that Title 4D of the Social Security Act was signed into law by Gerald Ford in 1971. Since then, we've gone from a nation that had 1 in 60 children living in a fatherless home to 1 in 4.
Yeah.
And with that has come skyrocketing violent youth rates. I mean, 82% of violent youth offenders sitting in jail today are from a fatherless home. 92% of mass shooters are from a fatherless home. 80-something% of all youth runaways are from a fatherless home. High school dropouts from a fatherless home, 78% fatherless home. Like, you want to talk about something that's really destroying a nation? Destroying the family purposely through economic policy and foreign policy and family law, which is probably the most corrupt court in the United States. If you really want to get into that, I mean, we could do the 10-hour show on how corrupt the family law.
Do they incentivize women to have more babies single? Do they get paid more?
Well, the welfare system, which is all part of Title 4D. So Title 4D, essentially the way this works, and let me, people don't even know what Title 4D is, but it's an amendment to the Social Security Act that was put in there to cover the welfare of families. And essentially they pay states. Okay. So every dollar that a state pays on these family planning, family law, child support, all these programs, every 88 cents that a state pays, the federal government is paying them $1 back. So we're actually paying states from the federal tax fund to separate families, treat 92% of the time, 97.8% of the time, to treat the father as a visitor in their child's life, to take unequal parenting plans and make it so the mother has full control over a child while the dad can only visit them every other weekend. And then they're a cash cow. Okay. So every dollar that they collect from that man that has to pay for this woman, not just for his kid, but for this woman's life as well. Every dollar they take, they're getting $1.22 back or whatever. Yeah. And so they've incentivized states to separate families, and it shows. And the fallout from these programs shows. It's undeniable stats. These are undeniable stats. These violent youth stats, these runaway stats, these school dropout stats, the mass shooting epidemic, you can call it, which is actually way more rare than people make it seem.
It is. It just gets all the media exposure.
Yeah. So all of these things have skyrocketed along the same line as the programs that have been instituted to attack the family and destroy families. So they're undeniable stats. They're not even debatable. It's very clear what these have done to the United States. So our foreign policy is horrendous for the world. Okay. Not just Americans, but also Americans. And obviously they use this war machine to continue to prop up things like, inflationary monetary policies and stuff like that. But the destruction of the family is what's made it so that people have to depend on the government. At the end of the day, this is the communist playbook 101, right? Destroy the family. Playbook. Yeah. It's the Bolsheviks, right? Destroy the family, destroy faith. When we get rid of those two things, okay, now we have a person that's looking for something to be dependent on, looking for something to have faith in, and it's always the government. That becomes their new god. That becomes their new family. This government that's gonna take care of you when you turn 65 with $1,000 a month out of the Social Security fund. And
they're afraid to leave it because they have that, well, if I leave it, if I reject it, it goes away. And what will I do? They feel vulnerable.
Exactly. Yeah. They've done it on purpose. Governments only exist to increase and grow their power over the population and turn you into a tax cattle. I mean, that's really how it works. And once they get rid of the middle class, all they have is tax cattle. That's it. They have tax cattle from the wealthy, and they continue to get the votes from the poor because the poor are looking for a way out of their situation, and the government giving them the only avenue.
And they attack those vulnerabilities. They go so hard at those with the propaganda and the messaging. It's and I don't know if terrorism.
You remember. I don't know if you remember I'm sure you do, but the Occupy movement in 2012. I was there. I'm from Oakland, right? I'm from Oakland, California. So this was base camp. And so I'm in the base camp at Oakland, stumping for Ron Paul. Okay. Yeah. Ron Paul is my guy. I want Ron Paul. And I'm I got to go and teach these people economics. Okay. That's how I thought in my 20s. I got to go and teach these people economics. The economy's in a tank. The reason why is the Federal Reserve and these, these inflationary monetary policies and, getting off the gold standard and all these things. And I want to go talk to these people about it. Well, the left and the right were coming together on this economy. I mean, they were actually starting to really come together at this point. And that's when we saw all of a sudden, and you can go and fact check me. If you look for Google Trends or the internet trends in 2012, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, racism became the worst problem in the United States. Racism and misogyny and the patriarchy and all that stuff that we deal with today from the woke left was inputted into their brains through the internet purposely.
It's the identity politics model that they're.
Yes. And they did it on purpose because they saw the population coming together. Now, that's a conspiracy theory. But I mean, you can look at the analytics. It'll show you that's when that stuff started. It was right around 2012, right when they saw people coming together in the streets, blocking freeways and shipping lanes and shipping.
Which makes homeless people look terrible, by the way, who are just asking for change.
Yes, exactly.
They don't want to be. I'm not a protester. I just need some change. You're absolutely right. And Stacey Abrams becomes a big figure here in Georgia, and is like, you attack DEI, you're attacking democracy. It is. Like, I think for them, along with the abortion issue and stuff, the easiest wedge issue to say, let's turn that switch on whenever we need it. And if racism were ever to get solved, not that, I mean, they never define what it actually is. That way they can call everything racism or anti-Semitism and whatnot. But if there was ever everybody to say, well, we have full equality and equity finally, then all of those people would be out of a job. So they will never allow that to happen. They get to where they are by perpetuating this idea of these made up problems. There's no Nazis marching up and down the street. And so, like, you talk about like local politics too. There's a number of questions I have. Great stuff, Josh. I appreciate you hanging out with us. There's lots of questions in here. I got distracted for a second there. The intelligence agencies. I'll get back to my question. Nate asked, what would you do to deal with the intelligence agencies that kind of control the government?
Well, I take we call this the administrative state, maybe the deep state. There's all kinds of different terms for this, but I think Vivek was right about this. And this is, Vivek wasn't great on everything. I want to make that very clear. There's many things that Vivek was not a libertarian about. And these people are like, most libertarian presidential candidate. No, dude, I'm the most libertarian presidential candidate. But he was right about the administrative state. He was right about the intelligence agencies, the FBI, the ATF, the IRS. What has happened is that they've grown so hugely out of their scope that they have time to go. The FBI has time to go and infiltrate school meetings and call soccer moms domestic terrorists.
And that's what's crazy is how local they've gotten.
Yeah, and infiltrate Catholic groups and call them Catholic. My grandfather was a Catholic extremist, right-wing Catholic extremist, right? This man who went to mass every Sunday morning my entire life and was the quietest, nicest guy you'll ever meet. These are the kind of groups that they're infiltrating now. And it's because, and look, I want to be very clear, and Waco proved this to me and probably proved it to a lot of other people too. When the ATF was coming up for their budgetary committee hearings and they were looking at maybe losing some of their budget. The way government programs work and agencies work is if they don't spend their budget, they lose a lot of their budget the following committee year.
Yeah.
Right. And right when this happened, all of a sudden we got David Koresh and the Branch Davidians, or these loony, crazy extremists, cultists that are going to kill everybody. We've got to go in there in full force. Call the news. Let's get all the news people out there. So they called all the news, the national media, the local media. They had everybody out there for the siege. And then, of course, now they have the opportunity to go tell Janet Reno, hey, we need a bigger budget next year because we have this rise in cultish right-wing extremists and gun runners. And
the cis people are organizing.
Yeah. And so this is how these agencies work. They run on budgetary constraints. And if they want more budget the following year, they have to spend their entire budget. It's the same way with the military and Department of Defense, and all of these agencies run like this. And so, yeah, Zach's right. They called it Operation Showtime. I love you, Zach. Zach's one of my favorite dudes in the world, by the way. And Zach, he got a signed concert poster for me, and he gave it to me when I was in Georgia by one of my favorite bands of all time, Silverstein. And I left it in the back of his car. Please bring it to National, buddy, so I can take it home. I'm driving to National, so please bring it to me. I really wanted that, and I love you. So, here's what I would do. The president doesn't I want to do the bumper sticker slogan, right? I want to do the abolish the CIA, abolish the ATF. And I believe that in my heart. A lot of these agencies are terrible. Maybe there's an argument to be made that we do need some kind of, I don't know, national or international intelligence of some sort if we were to have a nation state. But the fact is the president doesn't have the power to abolish these agencies. You do have the power, however, and Vivek has brought this up, and I've just ran with it because it's 100% true. He ran with my Title 4D of the Social Security Act stuff, and so I'm running with this for him. We can do massive layoffs. I mean, 75% of the workforce, you can lay them off. And the ones that remain, you can move them around to localities, and you can move them around to, janitors or whatever it is. The president has the power to do that. So I would absolutely do that. If we could get the FBI small enough in the United States, or the CIA even small enough in the United States to where they only have time and resources to go after interstate sex traffickers and interstate serial killers, which is what the FBI was really created to do. I mean, that was their whole thing. Then I don't think that people are going to have such a problem with them infiltrating, school groups and PTA meetings and stuff. So
and so it feels like, I joke about it sometimes, where it's like half of America are citizens, the other half are the handler for each of those citizens.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The administrative state is huge. I mean, the scope, they've grown way out of their scope, and it's all because of the budgets. I mean, that's really, at the end of the day, it's what it is. They have to grow the budget, so they have to continue to hire. And then we just saw this with the IRS. Will they hire 75,000 new agents? I mean, that's an insane number.
Yeah. And if you're like in a wheelchair and you're 400-pound black woman, then you go right up to like vice president, and you get like bombs you can just throw at people.
2 years ago, I got audited on my taxes. Okay. I'm a blue collar working class guy with one job and some media pay coming in, very small amounts of media pay. Okay. And it was right after they had hired these 75,000 agents. They're auditing me, and they just sent me a letter where, like, basically none of your dependents are valid, and you're going to have to prove to us that all your dependents are valid. I'm like, these are my fucking children. Okay?
Right. Yeah, your dependents.
Yeah. So you've hired 75,000 IRS agents to go after middle class, blue collar, working class dads. Like, what kind of bullshit is this? And so, like, they've just grown. The scope is just insane, and it's time to. They've overstepped their scope. And as President Joshua Smith, Libertarian in the White House, we're laying you off. And I don't care. Get a real job, loser. I don't care anymore. You're not going after middle class dads for their extra $50 anymore, man. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, and they'll have to get all the child pornography off of their computers once they get fired.
Right? Please dump my files. Dump my files. Call.
I mean, the FBI is the biggest database of child pornography.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me at all, and I'm sure they're all looking at it all the time for pleasure too. And
who accepts that job? Who accepts the investigating? I mean, I know it's just awful.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that there's an argument to be made that we need some kind of task force that goes after child traffickers.
I mean, it definitely needs to be stopped, but
couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. There's no way I could do it. I'd have no problem hanging the people that do these acts. But looking at it, I couldn't do it.
It's tough. It's almost like, let's get the inmates. We'll just give them a job. They'll go through it. The ones that are already in prison.
Yeah, they're already in there. Tell us how to find these guys, you sick bastards. And then maybe we won't wood chipper you. Maybe.
Exactly. Yeah, you can avoid the wood chipper. So co-option, and if anybody's watching on Rockfin, the stream is live on Rockfin, but for some reason the comment section is not showing up. So I apologize if I'm missing the comments. I am going to, I'll go through a few questions and comments towards the end of the show for you guys that are commenting. I see a lot of great stuff over here. The idea of co-opting, and this is what I worry about, because they put these, they call them Soros-backed DAs and stuff now, but it's just any of these people who have money funding them. I subscribe to all these activist training things like Indivisible and all these other ones because I want to see the trainings they're doing, which are always led by like 45-year-old pink-haired women.
Of course. Who want to normalize the term minor attracted person.
Right. And so like they brag about being in every precinct in the country, and they're trying to organize their groups there. And I wonder how we protect against getting co-opted. Now, those people there particular are, I think, are pretty obvious to recognize, but somebody who is a skilled Bolshevik communist co-opter who can pretend to be something else, how do we vet to make sure we don't allow ourselves to get co-opted in libertarian groups or in local politics?
Well, people aren't going to like this, but first of all, we're going to have to ban and deem a foreign agent APAC. That's the first thing we got to do. Absolutely, 100%. 75% of our politicians are bought and paid for by the American Israel Political Action Committee. That's foreign allegiance, my man. That's what it is. We've already been co-opted by foreign allegiance, and those are the same people that are doing the communist Bolshevik revolution undercover in the United States. Look, we used to force these communist nerds into basements to hold meetings. Okay. In the United States, we used to be the full-blown anti-communist country in the world, and we were prosperous. We were absolutely prosperous. We were the most prosperous nation in the world. We were on track to be a society where people retired at 50 years old with 2 cars and a beach house and stay-at-home mom. Okay.
Not anymore though.
Not anymore. And it's, I bring up Yuri Bezmenov all the time because so much of what I do hinges on Yuri Bezmenov and the truth that he told us. I mean, this guy.
I love playing the clips from that thing. If you haven't seen Yuri Bezmenov, you need to watch it.
Any Yuri Bezmenov interview, it doesn't matter. Any of the American interviews he did, go watch those. He defected from Russia. He defected from the communist KGB. He worked in the propaganda wing of the KGB. He came over here and said, "Look, the communists are infiltrating your institutions right now. Now, they're doing it. They're in your schools. They're going to your libraries. They're going to your police forces. They're going."
And people think they would recognize it, but not if they're good. You wouldn't.
No, but prior to that, I mean, anybody who came out as a communist was shunned from society, as it should be. You know, when we're talking about communism, and they've somehow sold a lie to a bunch of college kids that really have never had to live life, that communism didn't kill 100 million people in the 20th century. That was all just because of colonization. The truth is that they've killed 100 million people in the 21st century. And that's way more than the Nazis killed. So if you hate the Nazis, you should also hate the communists. And so I think that America needs to be
and to that point, by the way, not to interrupt, but to that point, people need to recognize the manipulation going on when someone makes a point like that, where it's okay to hate both of those groups or dislike both of those groups. When someone says, "Oh, if you say the communists are also bad, then that means you are a Nazi," which is what the media does and what our politicians do. They're both bad.
Well, look, victory. The victor always writes history, right?
Totally.
That's how it works, and we know that the Red Army was definitely the victor in World War II, and they got to write their own history. And we know that America was the victor in World War II, and they got to write their own history. And maybe at some point, members of the Red Army, came to the United States and helped to write the American history for us. And I'm not saying the Nazis weren't bad, but I am saying that the communists are also bad, and it's okay to say those things, and we need to shun them in society. The way that you hate anybody who says Hitler wasn't that bad, you should feel the same way about anybody saying Stalin was a good guy, or wearing a Che shirt. I mean, a gay person wearing a Che shirt unknowingly that he just executed gay people. I mean, it's absolutely insane to me that there's people in America today that support Maoism. Like, how did we let these dorks get out of the basement, man? Truly,
they just don't know any better. I think they don't know any of the actual history of it. They haven't read you can literally go read some of these people's writings that they wrote themselves, Mao and others, and you can see what they believed, and it would probably surprise many of these people. Which, by the way, I don't think I mentioned this up top. You were in the military, and I think I either read or I think you said to the Ron Paul the Shock and Awe campaign. So you have some firsthand experience with all of this that helped shape or form your where you are right now with your beliefs, right?
Yeah, I mean, I joined the military right after 9/11. I mean, they radicalized me. They propagandized me to the point of where I was like, look, I gotta go fight these people over there. They're gonna kill my family. You know, that's how I felt at 17 years old. And so I joined the Navy because I didn't really want to fight a war. I mean, nobody really wants to go and stand in a ground war. But yeah, my ship was in the Persian Gulf. My carrier on the Constellation was in the Persian Gulf when George Bush Jr. Declared war on Iraq. And so we were the biggest part of the shock and awe campaign. I mean, we dropped 100 million tons of ordnance on Baghdad.
And so what is the shock and awe campaign, briefly, for people who are...
It was 100 million tons of ordnance on Baghdad. I mean, that's really what it was.
It was a show of force, right?
It was a show of force. They wanted to go in there and quickly win the war against Saddam. But really what they did was they dropped 100 million tons of... So prior to the flight ops where they were dropping these bombs, they dropped millions of leaflets in Farsi telling Iraq citizens to leave their homes because they were going to start bombing. And then we commenced to drop 100 million tons of ordnance on a city that's like any of our big cities. People.
How long in between time do you remember from the leaflet drop to the...
Oh, days. I mean, it was not long. It was not long. Think of it like Rafah. Okay. Let's talk about how Israel told all the Palestinians, keep going south, you're going to the safe zone, and now they're bombing Rafah and raising Israeli flags at the entrance of Rafah. So it was like that, and even at 19 at the time, I guess I'd been in a little while. Even at 19, I'm going, this isn't right, man. This isn't. First of all, I'm here to fight, Al Qaeda and they're not in Iraq. Iraq didn't do 9/11.
So you came to that realization while you were still there?
While I was there, dude. Yeah. And I came home and I was just like, I felt gross, right? Like I felt sick to my stomach. And my brother was my older brother was like an anti-war activist, and he's like, I'm going to these bombs over Baghdad protests and stuff. And yeah, people, it sounds like what's going on there isn't right. And I was like, yeah, dude, it's a total corrupt mission. We've been bombing Iraq since I was 6 or 7 years old, and we're
crazy,
still bombing them today. I mean, I'm 41 years old. We're still bombing them today.
Yeah,
and of course they hate us.
Yeah, right. You have the Nahara campaign.
Yeah.
With Congress, for those who aren't familiar, I won't go into it too much, but just where it was literally scripted by a public relations firm where a girl pretended to be a nurse inside of an Iraqi it was an Iraqi hospital, right? And she said that the enemy soldiers came in and ripped babies out of incubators, and it was a story that George Bush Sr. Used to tell to congressmen and tell to the American public, I think like 20 times after that.
I want to ask you, Brad, does that sound familiar to anything that might have happened in the last 6 months?
Dude, everything about the Ukraine war is like the ghost of Kiev and the island people,
40 beheaded
and the beheaded babies
in Israel.
It's so I tell people all the time, like atrocities happen, and this is why it's the reaction when you question them is often people they are very uncomfortable questioning them, but I tell them the exact page to go to in Edward Bernays' book, Public Relations, which he created the name Public Relations because as part of the World War I propaganda campaign to get a neutral America to support the war on the side of the British, he the term, because Americans got disillusioned once they learned that they had been manipulated, he said that the term propaganda, it had been tainted, and so I'm going to call it public relations now. And I've asked people who take public relations classes, like my niece's college friends, I'm like, oh, you're a public relations major. One of them told me a couple years ago. I was like, have you guys talked about Edward Bernays? And she's like, who's that? I'm like, oh my God. They have no idea.
You created what you're doing?
Yeah, you're studying propaganda. But on page 75 of that book, Edward Bernays is bragging about how they use the same atrocity propaganda stories over and over again, recycled from wars hundreds of years ago. They just modernize them a little bit, which doesn't mean atrocities don't happen, but means that it's necessary for us to question them when there's no evidence provided.
Right. Yeah, well, people don't like to question things. It makes them uncomfortable. That's the sad part, right?
Yeah, and Bernays talks about how gullible we are for not questioning them.
Yeah.
It's like the guy's insulting us.
Yeah, I mean, look at. You can't even mention the Holocaust without saying absolutely what they've told you to say, and without just getting shunned from society forever. Like, it's like we should be able to talk about that. I'm not
absolutely.
I'm not a Holocaust denier or anything like that. But I don't see why we aren't allowed to question those things.
I'm the same way. Fuck Hitler, but I like to ask questions. We have to ask questions about absolutely anything. So we're selling my parents' house. My parents passed away during COVID, and we're getting their house ready to sell. And we were having these people come over to come look at it, and I knew that some of them they were these like we're gonna come in and just offer you a shit lowball thing. I can't remember what, Mark Spain or something like that. And so they came in, and I was actually about to do a show. I had a little studio set up there, and my sister had told them I was a conspiracy theorist, and they were just trying to get us to like get on board with them. They kept saying, "Oh my God, I'm also a conspiracy theorist. What do you?" And they're totally full of shit. And like I wish I'd done this, but I didn't. When they asked me what conspiracies are you into, I wish I would have said, "Oh, I just like to give a little context on Hitler, and just to really see how far they go with agreeing with me." Yeah.
Yeah.
But
just that your president actually committed 9/11.
Absolutely. Yeah. Frighten Me says useful idiots. Totally useful idiots. Now, let me ask you this, and then we have a guest on the line here who is going to have a question. Then if you have time, I'd love to go through a couple comments. If not, I totally understand. I know you're busy.
Yeah, okay.
What are your thoughts on the campus protests going on right now?
Yeah, look, I feel about the same way as I did about the January 6th protesters, right? Like, these are pissed off people who actually have a cause, and they're gonna go protest for the cause. And I agree with the cause to some extent. I would say I don't think that anybody who's out there saying Hamas is good is right. But I mean, if you understand the Zionist movement, right? And I want to be very clear, not to mince my words here, because sometimes I use Jews interchangeably, and that's not what I mean. I don't mean to say that, and I piss off a lot of my Jewish friends. But I know that the vast majority of Jews have an allegiance to Israel first, because they're the Old Testament, or the Torah, whatever you want to call it, tells them to. And as Christians, we don't believe that. We believe that, that land doesn't mean anything to us anymore. What means something to us is being sons of Abraham. That's Israel. It's a citizenship of the heart. Anyways. But I've watched the atrocities committed by the Zionist movement of Israel today. These people that I don't believe are God's people. I believe that they are committing atrocities in Palestine. I think that Palestine's been an open air prison since they moved in. I think that they've displaced not just Muslims, but also many Middle Eastern Christians as well, which gets kind of lost in the sauce here. So I agree with them. I don't know that these protests, the way that they're doing, some of the stuff that they're doing is not helpful to their movement at all. I mean, the other day I saw a video of them holding like Jewish students hostage on campus or some shit, and I'm like,
stupid. Yeah,
and I'm like, this is dumb. Don't do that. You're just, it's, and it's not like the Summer of Love where they were out protesting police by burning down private businesses and hurting people in the streets, but they're doing some really dumb things that aren't going to help their cause. And I think that they need to think about that, because I agree with them that Palestine is oppressed, and I agree with them that they're, these bombing campaigns are killing hundreds or tens of thousands of innocent people and children, and it needs to stop. But I don't think that holding Jewish
that's not the best idea, is to go ahead and take your Jewish colleagues at school hostage.
That's not going to help you guys at all, man.
And demand and call it humanitarian aid that you demand. It's like they do everything to make it divisive and as hard to sympathize with them as possible. And
that's the left in a nutshell, though.
Totally. And this is how they do that shit with the protesting is, and you said think about, and that's in my opinion, the key phrase is these younger people, and I know they're in college and it's hard to, and honestly, I would love to go into one of those encampments and just like find one of the straight dudes who's in there, because he's
one of seven.
One of the 7 straight dudes, and be like, hey, my buddy's over there with these hot Jewish chicks, and one of them wants to bang you. And see how quickly they switch sides.
I'm on my way. I'll get a case of beer. I'll be right there.
Totally. I know if I was in college and I walked by an encampment and I saw some girl, right as the warm weather and shorts got, be like, what are we protesting? And and like these, I talked about this I did a show about this the other day. Those who are genuine about who have done enough to understand what's going on and are presenting like valid arguments and stuff, I'm all for that. The free speech, people should support that. What I see these protests as is, I see it as like the NFL Combine for community organizers. And those who organize protests, who end up with the most protesters getting rubber bulleted and tased by police officers and dragged to jail, and the most news media and controversy are the ones that are going to get drafted by the big mega donors to run for office.
They'll be the next Obama.
Exactly. Stacey Abrams, AOC. This has become how politicians cut their teeth. I mean, I can tell you a story about how Stacey Abrams got to where she is. It's wild. It's strictly based on using identity politics to organize black people to go do things that would get them kicked out of school and arrested, while projecting her into higher positions of power her entire career. And so that's what I see this as. And to me, I feel confirmed in that belief when I know there was a protest at Kennesaw State University here, which the cops didn't intervene. The protesters didn't do anything illegal because all of the outside agitators didn't go there. And I found a Reddit forum. They've been protesting at Kennesaw State for months, and it's gotten no attention. Everybody's rights has been respected, their First Amendment, and there's people protesting on both sides. There's probably more of these going on all around the country, but the media, who won't say the name of school shooters, will only focus on the few ridiculous ones and ignore all of the ones where people are doing it right. And so that's like, I don't know how a president or a candidate for office can address that problem, but I think that's, and it goes back to the media, is the biggest problem with this country, is the false perception of reality.
Well, first of all, I don't think there's any school shooters that are doing it right, buddy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. Yes, exactly.
The phrasing was a little weird there. I'm not gonna lie.
The one who walks in and leaves the gun in the car. He's just
that guy that like decided not to last minute.
Yes,
he was doing the school shooting the right way.
Yes, thank you.
Look, and this is a media heavy problem. It's because the media is bought and paid for, just like our politicians. At the end of the day, it's the truth, right? Like, we know this in the United States. We know that, like, 8 companies own all of the mainstream media entirely, and we know that they're biased, and we know that they're putting out media that only caters to their crowd. And we see this with just shootings in general, not just school shootings, but you know, the vast majority of the stats for gun deaths, first of all, are suicides. We know that it's the number one way that people die by gunshot in the United States. Second, all the vast majority of mass shootings happen in places like Chicago. Los Angeles,
South Side Chicago is rough. I lived in Chicago.
New York. I mean, these places where there's gang violence are mass shootings. 2, 3, 4, 5 people at an event get shot. That's a mass shooting. It's not just the school shootings. Actually, school shootings are very rare.
Yeah, they never report on the other shit
of shooting, but they only report on those things. And that's a media problem. We do need a president that's willing to step up and go, here's the problems. It's not what the media is telling you. It's these things, and
they are the enemy of the people.
Yeah,
that is a true statement.
And that was probably for all his faults. That was the best thing Trump did. He red pilled a ton of people on the media, and it really was the beginning of the end for the mainstream media. That's when it started really tanking. And so, like, thank you for that, Donald Trump. Like, I appreciate that. I still think that if you really wanted to give the finger to the media, you would have freed Julian Assange. But hey, we can't all be tough and powerful and brave. Some of us got to be cowards on our way out of office too.
That's what makes me like you as a candidate, like that, because you criticize Trump. You have no problem criticizing him, but you also, you just don't have, I just hate him for no reason. You also are willing to point out things that, yes, that was correct. The January 6th stuff, I know I asked Mike Termott during the debate, like, he's got to get that shit off his website where he's like, Trump was the great lie, the big lie. Or like, you can't say that shit if you want people to take you seriously, in my opinion. You're willing to criticize, but also say what he did.
I still think I still believe that 100% believe that election was most likely stolen.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's so funny because people, all of a sudden, when it's Donald Trump losing, it was the most secure election in our life. But
right, and in Fulton County, most people don't know this. Fulton County's government has been under the control of cyber hackers for like 2 months now. Yet the only thing they can't hack apparently is the Dominion voting machines.
Go figure. Well, it's like when George Bush won, the left was like, "Oh my God, this election was stolen." I don't know if you guys remember that, but this goes on every election. Does anybody really believe that we have secure elections in the United States? Hell no.
I know.
Absolutely not. And we never have.
And they actually had this brand new CISA, and this is all throughout that indictment for the Fulton County indictment and the federal indictment, threw my pen everywhere, where it said, the reason that we know Trump knew that he was lying about the election is because CISA said it was the most secure election in American history, which is an unmeasurable statement. It's just so ridiculous.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, you can't quantify that at all.
No.
At all.
So I have a guest here who I didn't mean to spring this on you, but has a message that he would like to deliver to you, if that's okay. I'm going to bring him in. I'm sorry. He always contacts me when he gets emotional about things. Mr. President.
Oh, there he is.
Mr. President. You're there. Oh, you're sorry. I'm going to mute you there. I think you're muted. I can't hear you, Mr. President.
I was in a court procedure. I just took a couple Z's waiting on you.
You're asleep. You're farting yourself awake and sleeping. Yeah.
So Josh Smith, the best electee. I just want to tell you, you better not heckle me. You better not heckle me when I'm coming down there.
You're talking about during the national convention.
It's going to be a bloodbath. Part of me thinks that RFK is challenging me so he can ask me to be vice president. But here's the real thing. Ever since then, I've been working on a little assignment in my skiff.
Oh, you got a whiteboard there. It's like a conspiracy whiteboard.
You see, I got the Libertarian debate.
Oh, Josh's name is on there.
Toad's best friend.
Josh,
it's true.
Wait, you're Toad's best friend? Is that what it says? Oh, Josh is Toad's best friend, you said. Go ahead.
We got the old New Deal by old Mike Termott. He's got that rusted New Deal or whatever he's calling it.
Those high quality videos on his website.
The whole thing's falling apart like it's the Bismarck from World War II.
Yeah, it's like every video on his website was filmed in VHS.
Yeah, it's bad.
Chase Oliver, who's my possible arch nemesis. He's 10,000th in line after Joe Biden. Only 10,000.
He was ready to debate you at the Georgia convention.
I
Buddy.
know, man. You guys had some sexual tension.
RFK is connected to JFK Jr., connected to QAnon. Right there. Epstein, Bigfoot, lizard people, the Bush family.
That explains everything.
Hunter, Biden, Joe Biden, Fauci, David Icke.
David Icke? Is that what you just said?
Yes.
It's all on there. BlackRock, Deep State, Aleister Crowley. I'm figuring it all out. I've caught them all. I've caught them all.
Are you going to bring this into your trial in Fulton County?
That's what we're rolling out the storm. I am the storm.
I am the storm. Aleister Crowley is definitely behind your trial. There's no doubt.
Aleister Crowley, right there. There's his name on the board. You know, he had a secret affair with the guy who started the Scientology.
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
Not that guy. The guy behind it all. The guy that Tom Cruise is reincarnated as.
Yeah, the guy who wrote the book. L. Ron
Hubbard. Aleister Crowley. They were one of the first thruples.
That was a thruple.
Actually, their child, I believe.
Yeah.
I know that, so.
Interesting.
Yeah, we got a lot here. Lars, Metallica drummer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lars Mapstead, the porn king.
Yeah, you're a subscriber to his site, Mr. President?
Or is it Hamburglar from McDonald's?
Oh, okay. Hornburger, yes.
Horny burger.
Yes.
Horny burger. I do love this. This is great. This is my favorite. This was the best part about the Georgia debate when he walked in and Chase started debating him from the stage like it was Trump. It was the greatest thing ever.
He was really serious about it. We had to bring the mood down a little bit.
The reason I did it the way I did it at the end there was because the night before we were when I met Chase, he came over and was telling me what he would do if he ever got to debate Trump, and he was doing his Trump impersonation. So I was like, oh, that's how we do the transition.
Right there. Trump impersonation in front of Donald Trump. He didn't even know it.
He's sitting right there.
I was disguised as some schlub with McDonald's.
Okay, that's great. So, Mr. President, what is your message going to be to the Libertarians?
You know, if you're not going to vote for Joshua Smith, you might as well vote for me. That's what my message to them is going to be. You know,
fantastic.
If they're going to vote for any other Libertarian, might as well vote for me. Why not? Either that or vote for Joshua Smith.
Well, President Trump has endorsed you here, Josh. Mr. President, thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon.
Hey, God bless you. God bless America. Let's make America great again.
See you later, Mr. President. See you later. So I just wanted to, he's sorry about that. He just wanted to have a message for you.
Still my favorite part about the Georgia debate. Chase was fun. Deadpan, ready to debate the Trump impersonator, dude.
It was super great. Fun, dude.
I was like, wow, that was cringe.
I know,
Good
dude.
job.
It was intense. It was great. Do you have a few more minutes to go through some comments?
Yeah, absolutely. I probably got 13 minutes or so.
Okay, all right, cool.
I do want to be very clear about this Trump thing. If we are able to force a debate with the Libertarian nominee, I guarantee you I'm the only person in this race right now that can actually hang with Trump. I promise you that. Chase,
he trolls. Like, you can't debate him. You got to troll back.
And I'm a troll, and I know how to handle trolls, and nobody else does. Chase will get streamrolled. Look, we had Chase and Lars Mapstead in a national debate. Okay, they got into the free and equal elections debate with those socialists, the Socialist and Libertarian Party candidate, and the Unicorn Party candidate, the fat black socialist as she calls herself, and they were just dropping like. Is there any other kind? Sorry. No, that's all there is. Yeah. No, but they were like dropping these just let's turn America into Cuba policies, and they just stood there not like shaking their heads and then they gave their little libertarian bumper sticker, freedom in our lifetime shit, right? And they didn't push back at all. And if you think if they're not going to push back on these little tiny third party candidates from the Socialist Party,
right?
You think they're going to be able to handle Donald Trump and RFK Jr.? I
mean, those guys are aggressive. You know, you got to be ready to fight. You know.
Yeah, dude, and I'm ready. I'm the only one that's aggressive enough. Look, I know a lot of people that support me or are coming from my wing of the party. I also support Rechtenwald. I promise you, I watched the Rechtenwald debate with RFK in California. he's not going to be able to handle Donald Trump either. And in fact, he was a Donald Trump supporter right up until he decided he was going to run for president in the Libertarian Party. So, if you want a guy that's actually going to take those people to task, I promise you, I'm going to be the only one, and you're going to want to make me the nominee.
All right. So before we go to some of these comments, where would you like people to go to help you out or to find out more about you?
Sure. So we have the website. It's joshuasmith2024.com. Super simple. You can volunteer there. You can fill out the volunteer form. You can make a donation to the campaign, man. We got a goal of 10 grand in the next 2.5 weeks to raise for the national convention so we can give a real nice convention experience to delegates and try and get the nomination. We need your help there. You can sign up for the email list. After the campaign, if we don't get the nomination, I'll use that email list probably for Break the Cycle or other various projects, PACs, and stuff that I work with. So you'll still get updates from Joshua Smith and Break the Cycle after that. So sign up for that. And of course, follow my show. I do Break the Cycle every Tuesday and Thursday. We will not have any more shows until after the national convention at the end of May, because I will be traveling starting tomorrow. I'm going to Timcast again. And then I am traveling for 9 days for work, and then I'm going straight to the national convention. So I won't even be home for any shows. But we do a show Tuesday and Thursdays on all the platforms. So you can check out Break the Cycle with Joshua Smith. Follow me on Twitter. That's where I'm at war. It's the one place in the world where I can go and tell the sitting president of the United States to kiss my ass. You can do that at Joshua at Large. So.
All right. Fantastic. What's it like at Timcast? I mean to ask.
It's good. Tim gets a lot of shit, and I disagree with him heavily on things. But he's just a nice guy, man. Like I sat down with him, and we talk off air, and this will be my 4th time going on Timcast now, but not to brag or anything, but it's pretty cool for for a guy who just raising kids, right? But I sat down next to him while he was designing his laptop on the computer, and he's just like a cool, interesting guy who's got some views that I disagree with, but we get along, and we have a lot of views that we agree on. And then Ian is actually the coolest, nicest.
Yeah,
guy
Ian seems like.
Yeah, so they work hard. Shit.
Totally, yeah, dude. So doing theater for so long, Ian's the type of person I'd meet in a theater who's just got really that I'd love talking to because of just the uniqueness.
I wish they'd get a little more red pilled on Israel for sure and China.
Yeah,
but they're not. They're not just. I just don't think they'll get that red pilled on those things, and it is what it is. I wish that he's got this big giant media platform. I wish he'd use it to call out AIPAC, But yeah. When they bring me on the show, I do. So, and people get mad at me. Why would you even go on Timcast? So I could say those things.
And two, that's how you get, you're subverting the mainstream media, and you can say what you will about Tim and those guys. They're hard workers, and even if they don't take those positions, by bringing people like you on, giving those positions a platform, the mainstream media is not doing that. So I think it's great that you go on there.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's a, if we're not going to use those platforms, then what are we doing here? That's
exactly. Fantastic. Okay. So this is, I think this is a good question for you here. What about people misquoting the word of God to profit and mind control the masses? Mike Johnson comes to mind with this question.
Sure. Yeah. I talk about this a lot on my show too, right? I'm super versed in scripture, and I'm obviously a New Covenant supporter. I believe in the New Testament. I believe that when Jesus said that he was promising us eternal life, that when they talk about Israel in the New Testament, they talk about who the sons of Abraham are. The sons of Abraham are everybody who accepts Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. Okay, so these are the people that actually are the heir to Israel, the sons of Abraham, and that's a citizenship of the heart. It is not a physical land. It says it very clearly in several Bible verses that this is no longer a physical land, that the New Jerusalem will come from our God when Jesus returns. So I think that it's subversion to the highest form. I think that anybody's talking about this replacement theology is doing so out of malice to try and get you to support things that you don't support. God would never support the atrocities that are going on. Jesus would never support the atrocities that are going on in Palestine today. So don't let these evangelical Christians, right-wing Christians, tell you that you have to at all costs support Israel. It's not the truth. It's just simply not true.
It's these propaganda appeals, and even Bibi Netanyahu is doing it, trying to make people think it's the end times,
right?
Trying to subvert their critical thinking. That's all it is, in my opinion. And I have to say, I don't know if anybody else got this notification about the rapture the other day, but from something called Uber, something popped up on my phone that said it's time to meet Jesus at the door. And
From
so he
Uber.
brought me a meal for some reason. and he
Oh,
left.
well, that's nice. Yeah,
Yeah, very, very
that's
strange.
that's Jesus. That's the Mexican.
Oh,
deal.
is that what it is? Jesus. Okay. Now I see what my confusion
Yeah,
here.
look, I don't believe that God or Jesus calls on Christians to support the physical land of Israel. And if you read your Bible in the New Testament, it will tell you that very clearly. And anybody that's calling you a replacement theologist or a white nationalist for supporting
Yeah,
replacement
right.
theology is bullshit. Christ is
man.
king, and that's the end of that. I mean, if you're a Christian,
Right.
Christ is king. Period. So.
And even if you're black, they'll call you like the worst white nationalist.
Oh yeah, you're the dark skin of white nationalism.
Right. Yeah. The Uncle Tom.
Yeah.
Michael says there's 190 countries. Can't Ukraine and Israel get money from them?
Sure. Yeah, I don't care. Let them do
Yeah.
whatever they want.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly. Do whatever
Yeah.
they want.
yeah.
Yeah.
Look,
totally.
look. I get a lot of guff for talking about NATO expanding to the east, right? Like, Gorbachev said at the end of his life that there was never this promise made. So everybody talks about that all the time. But Gorbachev was like clearly in dementia riddled state at this point when he finally said that. There is a lot of talk and proof, and you can go back and look at the archives and files that said NATO would not expand to the east. And so like we're kind of like violating by supporting it, but
Totally.
there's no reason whatsoever that the United States taxpayer should be funding secure freedom for Ukraine. If you want to do that
Yeah.
yourself, you should absolutely fund it yourself, but don't
Fine.
make
You go
taxpayers
there
do it.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but to take people's money when grocery prices, used car, like everything is just up the ass with the cost right now. It's robbery is what it is to go pay off a war that people otherwise would not support a war. It pisses me off. And it's supported not by people who are actually paying taxes, but often the children of people who are paying taxes. They weaponize through the media, and
Right.
it's just, I could talk very angrily about that for a while. For a question from Michael, he says, "Can we please change voting laws? I know it's up to states mainly, but damn, maybe an IQ test or something."
How about only male property owners?
Yeah, yeah.
At this point, I think. Look, I know I say that in jest and tongue in
Sound like
cheek.
pearly things.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, like we want people that are voting to have a stake in the future of the United States. Like that's what voting was really created for in the United States and democracy. And at one point, it was just male property owners that were allowed to vote. And the country was much more prosperous in those times. And we've made voting such a bullshit scam.
It's my right, my born
anyways.
right. It's totally.
Yeah, like dude, it's we always use bumper sticker slogans. Libertarians love bumper sticker slogans, but democracy is 4 wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. And that's the truth. Democracy is the god that failed. If you don't read Hans Hermann Hoppe, you should. Democracy is trash. It absolutely 100% always fails and breaks down.
And they'll never mention it's actually a democratic republic. I think that's on purpose to manipulate younger people.
Yeah, but even then, I mean, that just means we have representatives in Congress. Yeah. It doesn't change a lot when your representatives are bought and paid for by foreign allegiances and pet projects and other countries and military industrial complex contractors. And does it really matter if it's a republic when all these people are bought and paid for by those outside sources anyways? Like democracy always fails because people are not fit to lead massive amounts of people. They're just not. Leaders are meant to lead like their tribe,
And that goes back to like Socrates.
Yeah.
When you go all the way back to that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I don't, I'm running for president, but trust me, I don't think I'm fit to lead, a nation of 300 people. I think I'm fit to try and break down some of these oppressive state programs that have been instituted. And I know what would make me, my life better. And those are the things I'm kind of basing my policy off of.
Yeah.
And so but there maybe some of my policy isn't going to make other people's lives better. And that's the problem with democracy, right?
Yeah. And so the social security debate, which we didn't talk about too much during the Georgia debate, but I did watch some of the other ones. We all talked about it. And this is where my problem with Hornberger came up. Hornberger is very good at delivering his message, but also his response to one of the questions, which I think I asked him about this during a previous debate, was like, basically, if you ended Social Security, everybody would immediately be okay, which is not true. So they created this dependency on this program, and so it just wasn't a realistic answer he was given. Not that I think that these programs are good, but people who are on them and are dependent on them are terrified of the thought or the messaging. Like they don't have the confidence in themselves to survive otherwise when the messaging is, yeah, let's just get rid of something that your entire life has been dependent on. You know, so
yeah,
I don't know what his
I don't know what his problem is with just paying out people what they've paid in and then shutting the program down, because that's what I would do. I don't believe in a sunset clause for Social Security. I think Social Security is a giant Ponzi scheme where we're using the young to pay for the old, and then skimming off the top for pet projects around the world. So I 100% agree with Mr. Hornberger that this program needs to be shut down right away. But I would just pay out the people what they've paid in, and people are like, well, won't that hurt the state? Well, yeah, that's the point. The point is to starve the state, right? Like at the end of the day, like I subscribe to agorism in a lot of my stuff, right? And the whole point of agorism is, I said agorism. I'm agoraphobic. No, agorism is to starve the state through counter economies, right? And that's the way that we're going to end up, because if there's 300 million people in the United States, but it would only take maybe 5 million people to opt out of taxes
absolutely
to start starving the state, right? So like is it going to hurt the state? Yes, it's going to hurt the state, and I hope it hurts the state.
We'll fucking bring them down if you can get enough people confident in the alternative system.
We don't have money for war anymore. Oh shucks, darn! Got to bring our troops home and let them integrate into society with their families. And oh well, shit, maybe we don't have money for the war on drugs anymore. And well, maybe the ATF isn't going to get funded this year, and we can finally bulldoze the building and turn it into a dog park in memorial of all the dead dogs. And I wanted to starve the state. I wanted to hurt the state. So I don't know what Hornberger's problem is with, like, look, these people have been paying into this for years. The government has duped them into believing that this was the only right they had.
Disempower them, thinking making them think they're incapable.
Yeah, pay them back. And then maybe go a little bit further. What I want to do is I want to pay reparations. Okay. I want to pay reparations to everybody who's had to unconstitutionally pay for an NFA tax stamp.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do that by selling off ATF and FBI gear. Right. And so,
that's great.
I think there's all kinds of great policies we can do that'll starve the state from being the war machine that it is today. And I think that it has to happen. And I think that paying out Social Security is one of those things. That's a reparation I support,
Very cool. I like the creative ideas about that. And people I laugh because I'm like, that's a cool idea. But I think stuff like that is actually, I think you can make stuff like that happen once you break free from the control of these government programs that they have. Dee's Laughs says, what will your free trade agreement be when you win? Will you save us from Trudeau?
What free trade equipment? Look, we're building the border wall on the wrong border. Okay, we should be leaving the snow Mexicans out of the United States. That's what we need to do. No, look, when it comes to free trade and protectionism in this debate in the United States, I take a very Ron Paul approach to all this stuff, man.
Yeah.
Free trade for all and entangling alliances with none. Trudeau needs to, first of all, have no influence in United States politics whatsoever, because that guy is just an absolute, 100% maybe the Antichrist. Okay.
Yeah.
Is the Antichrist.
Totally. He loves 95-year-old Nazis.
Yeah, he's just a weirdo, right? Like this guy's more.
He's the guy who grabs your dick after midnight at any party.
Yeah, and then shows you his socks, right? Like,
right.
This guy's just a weirdo, and
he's like, I hate my wife's vagina, and then you just get away from me.
Yeah, I want beneficial trade deals with any country that's willing to trade with the United States that benefits American citizens. That's how I look at trade and free trade society, where we have a United States government that has to be thinking about Americans first. I want a government that goes, is this going to benefit American citizens? Is this going to make a more prosperous nation for the citizens of our country? If not, we don't want it. We don't want to be a part of it, and we're not paying you for it. If we come to a conclusion that this is actually truly a thing that's going to benefit the economy for Americans, if it's something that's truly going to benefit Americans' lives, if it's truly going to make Americans more prosperous, then we'll think about it. But these things like tariffs, right? Like this is just a tax on the consumer at the end of the day. I know it's another bumper sticker slogan, right? But it's the truth. A tariff doesn't hurt the country that you put it on almost at all. It always hurts the consumer because the price of goods goes up. So, we've got to really think about those things. I think protectionism is bullshit. I subscribe to the free trade as laid out as by Ron Paul. I mean, that's really the guy that guided me into free trade and sound money and laissez-faire capitalism. So
what do you think of the TikTok proposed ban?
I think it's bullshit. I think that if you can name me one thing that the Chinese government is doing with TikTok that the American government isn't doing right now to the United States of citizens, I'll give you $50.
Yeah. No, I do. It's the exact same thing. That's why I see these debates. But so if I didn't get to your questions, and the Rock fan again, I don't see any of the comments for some reason. It seems to be live, so I apologize if I didn't get to them. Send them, hit Josh up on Twitter or his website, JoshuaSmith2024.com, and send him your questions. I mean, you always seem receptive to people. You
I'm
interact.
super receptive. I try to talk to. We're actually doing like personal one-on-one phone calls right now for the campaign. Cool. So I'm
who does that, dude? That's great.
Yeah, I want to be, I want to hear what people have to say. I think, this is probably one of the biggest problems with libertarians is sometimes we forget that we have two ears and one mouth, right? Like, right. we are.
I mean, Lindsey Graham really focuses in on that one mouth on a lot of people.
Well, and here's the thing: is like we are most often the very best read person in a room.
Totally, really smart.
We read economic theory and political philosophy for fun. Okay. That's why we're so autistic as libertarians.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
We read this shit, but then we forget that like people don't want you to like,
I know.
Give them a lecture on MMT versus, sound money, right?
They've never heard of Murray Rothbard.
Yeah, they don't know who Murray Rothbard is, and they've never heard of the non-aggression axiom as it was put by Ayn Rand even before Murray. And so like they don't want a lecture. They want you to tell them how you're going to improve their lives and their community and their families. And so like I've been really successful at doing these things because I don't go and lecture people, because I just go and talk to people like normal people, and I'm reachable and approachable. And sometimes my big stature, I'm a big guy, 6'2", 240, I'm not a little guy, but I try to make myself as small as possible when I talk to people in public, because I want them to, I want to be known that I want to be that mouthpiece, but I want people to know that like, I'm just like them and I support you and what you're going through. And I want your life better too,
Yeah, and you smile when you talk to them.
Yeah.
You see it oftentimes, especially with the social media, it's just people are just combative and ready to fight, and it can be easy for people to instantly be triggered by certain words. But if you talk to them with a smile and you connect with them, like you're saying, that to me is the key to saving the country. Is it shatters the stereotypes of what a libertarian might be for some of these people, and it's like, oh, this is just a real person like me with real problems. I didn't realize that I was being lied to about what they are. So fantastic job with everything, man. I admire what you're doing, and I mean the other candidates too. To be able to go on these tours and to do all these things and to face all these challenges and have to be ready for all these debates, that is a challenging task, and you put yourself under the spotlight. So, much respect to you for that. Before we get out of here, I do need to know this. So, like, real quick, Brian Stelter, Don Lemon, Jake Tapper, marry, screw, kill.
Shit, dude. Well,
You have another if you want to pass.
Don Lemon's very gay and probably the best looking guy out of the bunch.
That's true.
Maybe, but he's. I don't know. He's black though.
I'd marry Jake Tapper. He seems the most responsible.
He'd probably cook for you a lot.
He cooks definitely.
Yeah, he'd cook for you. So probably marry Jake Tapper. Fuck Don Lemon and kill that other nerd that I can't stand.
What about Lizzo, Stacey Abrams, Fannie Willis? I'd kill myself in that situation.
Harambe, I'm coming home, baby. I'm coming home. Yeah, dude. I appreciate you coming on. Dude, hey, you don't have to play the fence anymore. We're 2.5 weeks out from the national convention. You're free to endorse me anytime you want, Brad. I love you to death. I'm a huge fan. And I think that what you're doing is great. We need more people that take the deep dive into these issues the way that you do. It's so hard.
You're the only candidate I've had on the show. That's for sure.
I appreciate that. But it's true. We need. Like, we have a lot of great podcasters out there that have like surface level talks about things. I even do it sometimes too. I don't deep dive into the stuff that I'm talking about sometimes. You like always come with notes and ready, prepared, and deep dive your stuff. And I really appreciate that, man. We need more people like you. Thank you for.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you for coming on again. I totally respect what you're doing, and I love your I love the way you're doing it. So everybody check Josh out. If you're not convinced or not a supporter yet, just go. Look at his stuff, talk to him, and open your mind to being persuaded I think that's how we should be with everything. Thank you again, Josh. The Libertarian National Convention is May 24th through 26th.
Memorial Day weekend, yep.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting weekend. I'm considering maybe going now with all the developments. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, maybe even a little debauchery. I have to.
It's going to be. They always are. Have you been to a national convention?
I have
for
not.
Libertarian
Never been to
Party? They are a giant party, man. They're a lot of fun for sure, and everybody's got all these different like events going on, and you get to hang out with people. And it's Washington D.C., so there's a lot of fun stuff to do there. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. I hope you'll show up, dude. There's going to be a lot of cool people from Georgia will be there. I know that Zach will be there, so yeah, come hang out, man.
Awesome. All right, thank you, Josh. Thank you guys for listening, for commenting, and we'll talk to you next time. Have a fantastic rest of your day.